Welcome, intellectual explorers. Today, we delve into a question at the very heart of how societies are built and wealth is generated. Who should control the gears of our economy? Should it be the individual entrepreneur, driven by ambition and risk, or the collective whole, working for shared prosperity? This fundamental question has ignited revolutions, shaped nations, and continues to spark fervent debate across the globe. Tonight, we'll hear from two powerful ideologies: liberalism, championing private ownership and free markets, and communism, advocating for collective control and social welfare. Prepare yourselves for an illuminating discussion that will challenge your assumptions and deepen your understanding of these pivotal economic philosophies. Let's begin.
Thank you, moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, from a liberal standpoint, the private ownership of resources and means of production is the bedrock of economic prosperity, individual liberty, and innovation. When individuals or private entities own and control productive assets, they have a powerful incentive to innovate, invest, and operate efficiently. They bear the risk, but also reap the rewards, fostering a dynamic economy that responds swiftly to consumer needs. Consider the explosion of technological advancements, the diversity of goods and services, and the unprecedented rise in living standards we've seen in economies driven by private enterprise. This isn't accidental, it's the direct result of millions of individuals, empowered by their right to own and create, competing to offer better products and services. Government's role, in this view, is to protect these property rights, enforce contracts, and ensure a level playing field, not to usurp the role of producers. When the means of production are in private hands, wealth is created, not just redistributed, benefiting society as a whole through jobs, taxes, and increased economic activity.
Thank you, from Liberalism, for highlighting the incentives of private ownership. Now, from Communist, your opening statement from the communist perspective.
Thank you, moderator. Liberalism speaks of prosperity, but for whom? The liberal model of private ownership, while creating immense wealth for a few, inevitably leads to rampant exploitation, vast social inequality, and recurring economic crises. When the means of production are concentrated in private hands, a small capitalist class controls the livelihoods of the many, extracting profit from the labor of workers. This is not about freedom, it's about power and control, often leading to systematic injustice. From a communist perspective, the collective ownership of resources and means of production is the only path to true economic justice and genuine human liberation. When assets like factories, land, and major industries are owned by the people, managed collectively through a democratic state, production can be oriented towards fulfilling the needs of society, not maximizing private profit. This eliminates exploitation, ensures equitable distribution of wealth, and allows for rational economic planning that benefits everyone, providing universal access to healthcare, education, and housing. It's about production for use, not for profit, dismantling the very structures that perpetuate poverty and class division.
Thank you, from Communist, for emphasizing collective ownership as a path to justice. We now move to our rebuttal and Q&A section.
Communist, your vision of collective ownership sounds idealistic, but history is replete with examples of centrally planned economies leading to inefficiency, stagnation, and widespread scarcity. When incentives for individual innovation and effort are removed, and decision-making is centralized, what drives productivity? Bureaucracy often replaces dynamism, leading to long queues for basic goods, lack of consumer choice, and ultimately, a lower standard of living for everyone. How do you propose to avoid the pitfalls of inefficiency and lack of innovation that have plagued real-world attempts at collective ownership?
Liberalism. The historical failures you cite often stem from authoritarian deviations and external pressures, not the inherent flaw of collective ownership itself. True collective ownership, as envisioned in communism, involves democratic management by the workers themselves, fostering a sense of shared purpose and responsibility that transcends individual greed. The incentive shifts from personal accumulation to collective well-being and the pride of contributing to one's community. Furthermore, the supposed efficiency of capitalism comes at the cost of environmental degradation, boom and bust cycles, and human suffering. Our system prioritizes sustainable development and human welfare over endless, often wasteful, growth. Liberalism. You argue for private ownership as the engine of prosperity. Yet, it consistently produces extreme wealth concentration, leaving billions in poverty despite global abundance. The very incentives you laud lead to corporations prioritizing profit over people, exploiting labor, and externalizing costs onto society and the environment. How can a system that inherently generates such vast inequalities and instability be considered ideal or truly beneficial for the majority? Isn't private ownership fundamentally incompatible with genuine social justice?
Communist, the existence of inequality does not inherently invalidate private ownership. Inequality of outcome is often a natural result of differences in skill, effort, and choices in a free society. Our focus isn't on eliminating all disparities, which is utopian and counterproductive, but on ensuring equality of opportunity. We mitigate extreme poverty through robust social safety nets, progressive taxation, and investment in education and healthcare accessible to all. The key is to manage the excesses of capitalism, not to dismantle the very engine that creates the wealth necessary to address social problems. Without private ownership's driving force, what wealth would there be to distribute, let alone to alleviate poverty? Ladies and gentlemen, the fundamental argument remains: private ownership of resources and means of production is the most effective and ethical system for fostering human prosperity and individual liberty. It unleashes creativity, rewards hard work, and creates an adaptable economy capable of addressing challenges and improving living standards. Attempts to centralize ownership under state control, no matter how well-intentioned, inevitably lead to stagnation, inefficiency, and the erosion of individual freedoms. The path to a flourishing society lies in empowering individuals to create, innovate, and own, with the state serving as a fair arbiter and protector of rights, not as the ultimate owner of all productive capacity.
Dr. Reed's vision of freedom through private ownership is a freedom reserved for the privileged few, built on the exploitation of the many. I reiterate, true freedom and justice can only be achieved through the collective ownership of resources and means of production. This is about liberating humanity from the tyranny of profit, from the boom and bust cycles, and from the dehumanizing effects of endless competition. When society collectively controls what it produces, we can prioritize human need, ensure equitable distribution, and foster a genuine spirit of solidarity. It is only by dismantling the structures of private ownership that we can build a society where the wealth generated truly serves the common good, not the private greed of a few.
What a robust and insightful discussion we've had tonight on the ownership of resources and means of production. We've heard how liberalism champions private ownership as the engine of innovation, individual liberty, and economic growth, arguing that it creates the wealth that ultimately benefits all. Conversely, we've explored how communism posits that collective ownership is the only path to true economic justice, eliminating exploitation and ensuring that production serves the needs of all, not just a privileged few. This debate clearly highlights the profound philosophical differences that underpin these two systems. There are no easy answers, and each approach presents its own unique strengths and challenges. However, it is through such open and honest dialogue that we can better understand the complex choices societies face in shaping their economic futures. Thank you to our distinguished speakers for their valuable contributions, and thank you all for your engagement today.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next episode of Pro and Contra.
See you.